And the purpose of Wednesday's meeting was to discuss Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway's plan to purchase railroad giant Burlington Northern. Valued at $26 billion, this would be Buffett's largest acquisition ever.
He's created Berkshire from virtually nothing into hundreds of billions of dollars of market cap. Nobody else has a record like that.
He wanted to have an outstanding reputation, that he never really upset the apple cart when he bought a business, that he kept the management in place. He was establishing a reputation that paid off later in life. It's been building and building ever since I've known him.
It takes 20 years to build a reputation, and it takes 5 minutes to lose it.
When Warren made his investment in Salomon, I was one of the people, along with many, many others, who were quite amazed, because he had taken a very critical tone in talking about investment bankers and about their greed. And here he was investing in one, Salomon Brothers, that was known to be a member of the club.
Warren and Charlie went on the board, and Charlie couldn't stand what was going on there and didn't like the culture at all. And shortly after they got involved, the thing exploded.
In 1991, on a terrible day in August, I got a call, and the two top officers of Salomon were on the other end, and they said that we had a problem.
This is NBC Nightly News. Good evening. It is the kind of scandal that rocks Wall Street and raises questions about the integrity of our financial institutions.
With the giant securities firm of Salomon Brothers under investigation for improper trading of treasury bonds.
Salomon admitted it exceeded the limit of trading in government bonds, once by buying bonds in the name of a customer who didn't even know about the deal.
Salomon Brothers is under investigation by the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, the SEC, and the Justice Department. But more important than the fate of the firm itself is the impact their actions could have on the public trust and on the credibility of the American market worldwide.
The company owed $150 billion. It owed more money than any other private company in the United States at the time. And that night, I met with the man that ran the Federal Reserve of New York, who was the sheriff, in effect. And I said, I've never really owed very much money before. I said, I've got a little mortgage on a house, but $150 billion is a little staggering. And I was hoping he would say, well, don't worry, Warren, we'll give you a few weeks to breathe. And he said to me, prepare for any eventuality.
Earlier today, the U.S. Treasury Department announced that it had suspended Salomon Brothers from participating in the auction of new issues.
It was one more jolt for a scandal-scarred Wall Street.
The Fed was in fact saying, you're an evil force and we don't want you trading our bonds. It was a huge turning point for Warren. And he believed that at that particular point, his reputation was on the line.
Warren had 24 hours to make up his mind as whether he was going to go forward or just bow out. And I think at that point, Salomon Brothers could have gone into bankruptcy. And Warren stepped up and took responsibility.
Okay, I'm Warren Buffett. I was elected interim chairman of Salomon Inc. A few hours ago at a board of directors meeting.
Why was it necessary for you to step in, and what is your mandate of leadership?
I think that it was necessary to step in because I would do whatever was needed to dig out any bit of information about what's happened in the past, and I would do everything I could to make sure that things are exactly right in the future.
Are you satisfied that
I had to convince the Treasury that what was done in the past was awful and stupid, and they had every right to be furious at us. But this firm employed 8,000 people, and it was going to go out of business unless they let us continue, basically.
Warren believed that there was a too big to fail scenario. The term was not used then, but he believed that Solomon was too big to fail. And if Solomon went down, it would take other important parts of Wall Street with it.
We had this death knell from the Treasury, so I called the Treasury. Nick Brady was the secretary. You know, I'm pleading for my life, and I'm sure my voice was cracking and everything else. I said, Nick, this is the most important day of my life. And that I really did feel that it was going to be a colossal disaster. He wasn't sure I was right at all. In fact, he probably thought I was wrong, but he knew that I felt what I was saying. So the Treasury modified its order, and in effect, of course, it was quite an endorsement. It was huge.
It saved Solomon. Nick Brady went with Warren because he trusted him. It shows how having a good reputation is really helpful in life.
I thank you for the opportunity to appear before this subcommittee. I would like to start by apologizing for the acts that have brought us here. The nation has a right to expect its rules and laws to be obeyed. But I also have asked every Solomon employee to be his or her own compliance officer. After they first obey all rules, I then want employees to ask themselves whether they are willing to have any contemplated act appear the next day on the front page of their local paper, to be read by their spouses, children, and friends. If they follow this test, they need not fear my other message to them. Lose money for the firm, and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation for the firm, and I will be ruthless. I welcome your questions.
It's been 50 years since I formally took control of Berkshire Hathaway, and step by step, we've created something that is kind of what I dreamt we might create over time, but it took a lot of time to do it. It never seemed like we were making that much progress on any one day, but compound interest works.
When you think back 50 years ago when you founded this company, did you ever imagine it would be the 5th largest company in the world?
No, I didn't. But if I was thinking about it, I wouldn't have thought in terms of being the 5th or the 4th or the 3rd.
You would have wanted number 1.
Well, I mean, if you're going to dream, you might as well dream. Well, a Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting is partly a fun festival. It's sort of a Mardi Gras for people that come every year. It's a chance for us to have a lot of fun and meet the people that have entrusted us with their money.
Well, we used to have just 30 people in a cafeteria, and now we have this huge public spectacle. Celebration is part of making a group of people work well together. It's a celebration.
We are glad you're here at our meeting. Be sure to check out our wares. We'll sell you C's candy and dilly bars and insurance for all of your cars, for it's buy all you see at the Berkshire Show.
He truly loves to do what he does. I think investors who own Berkshire Hathaway, they see themselves as a part of a community. There are more long-term holders of Berkshire than any company. People consider it a religion.
They don't buy it with the idea they're going to sell it next week. I think most of them buy it with the intent of holding it for their lifetime, just like they'd buy a farm or buy an apartment house. At Berkshire, everybody gets the same information from the comprehensive annual report. We don't meet with the analysts I'm not interested in what an analyst thinks about Berkshire. I'm interested in what the owners of Berkshire think about Berkshire.
He came out of a private partnership where people he knew were trusting him. And he had his relatives in the partnership, and they were not rich. And as it got bigger, started treating everybody else the way he treated his relatives.
In terms of our feeling toward the people who are shareholders, we regard them as our partners. They're not some faceless group of people. And that's why at the annual meeting, I love seeing 40,000 of them. It gives real meaning to what we're doing every day.
Let's try. If you knew Susie like I know Susie,
we just have a lot of love and respect for each other, and that's never changed. I don't go to most things in Omaha because I think Astrid lives there with him, and that's for her to do. And then we do all kinds of things.
Strange as it may seem to people, I always think, who cares? If it's working between the people who are directly involved, who cares what anyone thinks? And my mother and Astrid were very close. They really, really loved each other. And I think that my mother was glad that she was there because she loved my dad. She wanted him taken care of and happy, and there's no one better than Astrid. I mean, she loves my dad. She wouldn't care if he had 1 cent.
Well, Astrid has lived with me for a long time. She's done wonders for me. It worked well, but I don't think it'll work for lots of other people necessarily. Susie and I loved each other, and we admired each other, and we were totally in sync with what the other was doing, but we were two different individuals.
The first time Warren came out to San Francisco, we took a walk and he looked around, and he's not very visual. He was looking around and he said, this is your city. I am so drawn to color and light and form and nature that he thought it was a good place for me.
Over the years, I've developed a better understanding of human nature. I can learn a lot about investments out of a book, but I don't think you can learn as much about human beings. You really need some experiences, and I'm wiser in that respect than I was 40 or 50 years ago, even though I can't rattle off numbers the same way I used to be able to.
Well, I think that what we do reflects who we are. That's true for everybody in this room. And if you do the work I do, you meet the best human beings in the world. People who've made a choice not to make money, but to serve other human beings. I think it's the best kind of life anyone could have.
I was with her in Arizona at this Fortune Most Powerful Women's Conference, and she told me that she'd had a biopsy the day before, and I didn't really think much of it. Then we got home, and the biopsy results were not good. It was stage 4 oral cancer.
I was on my way to a board meeting in India, and I remember saying to her, I'll see you when I get back. And she rarely cried, and she just started crying. I said, no, you need to stay here, and you need to come out for the operation.
So we were all there, and the day she was going into the surgery that morning, my dad, it's funny, there's some of it he just can't, he just can't. The thought of something happening to her was just, for him, it was just the worst thing that could happen.
She knew it was going to be really difficult. She knew the recovery was going to be brutal. So I think that she had that surgery for others.
It was quite a big surgery. She couldn't talk, she couldn't swallow, she couldn't eat. But she came out, and I really was with her for the next 4 months or so. And my dad came out every weekend. And in a few months, she was doing better. She and my dad had gone to Cody, Wyoming, which they did every year with a bunch of friends. And my dad called. This was I don't know, 8 o'clock at night or something. And he said, something happened to Mom. I'm in an ambulance. You need to come.
I actually thought something happened to my dad. I don't know why I thought that, but I guess I thought, you know, my mom had this recovery, it was successful, and why would anything happen to her?
It was horrible. And a total shock. You know, she'd been fine. She'd been fine. They went off to Cody, and she was fine, and they were having dinner, and, you know, she didn't feel well after dinner, and she had the stroke. We went into the hospital room, and my dad was sitting there. He'd been sitting there all night, holding her hand. I was so proud of him, because when it came down to it, he knew what he was supposed to do, and he did it, which was nothing. So my dad went to sleep, and I sat with her, and I just kept putting my hand on her heart to see if she was breathing. And at one point, you know, I didn't feel anything. So I went out and I got the nurse, and I said, can you come in here? And she said, no, she's gone. So I have to say, one of the worst moments of my life was waking my dad up to tell him that.
It's a very strange thing, love. You can't get rid of it. If you try to give it out, you get more back. If you try to hang on to it, you lose it. Susie really put me together. She believed in me. She put me together, and well, not only turned out to be the person I turned out to be, but I actually wouldn't have been as successful in business without that. She made me more of a whole person.
Went dark, essentially quiet and inward for a certain amount of time. My dad is a solitary guy, and he had lived essentially a solitary life in a lot of ways. I think it came down to him figuring out how he was going to get through this tunnel and get out the other side.
In my head at the time, I thought, God, I don't know if he'll ever get out of bed. But he did.
Welcome. I'm Patty Stonecipher, the CEO of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we appreciate you coming today, especially since I sent a very vague and very late notice to ask you to come to a conversation with Bill and Melinda on the future of philanthropy. So let's get on with it. I have the pleasure of introducing a good man whose great decision is going to change the world, Warren Buffett.
A remarkable decision tonight from one of the richest men in the world. Mega billionaire Warren Buffett says he is giving away most of his fortune to charity.
Buffett has pledged to give away the bulk of his fortune to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and giving more than 15% of his money to foundations started by his 3 children and his late wife, Susan.
One global health activist called what Buffett did today one of the most remarkably selfless acts that history will ever record.
That's a better hand than I get at a Berkshire Hathaway meeting. I'd like to thank you for coming. It's a great day for me. It's a great day for my family.
My wife, Susie, and I had planned that whatever I made would go back to society. And originally, I thought she would outlive me and that she'd make the big decision on it. But since her death, I had to rethink the best way to get the money into society and have it used in the most effective way. And I had a solution staring me in the face.
It was completely out of the blue. I mean, amazing. The largest single gift ever given was what he gave away that day.
I'd like to ask the people representing those various foundations to come out. First 3 letters are easy to sign. I just signed Dad.
When he wrote the letter to us, he put something in that letter that was incredibly important to me, which was exactly how our foundation behaves, which is if you're going to try to bat 1,000, you won't do very many things that are important. But if you're willing to basically strike out a few times, you can really change something big.
ICCN!
Well, I feel terrific about the fact that my 3 children each run a separate foundation that combines their special interests, whether it's early education or whether it's farming in areas where people's techniques for using small plots of land could use a lot of improvement. All kinds of ways, vaccines, you name it.
More powerful than Buffett's gift is the message he's sending to other wealthy Americans, that those who have the least in this world should benefit from those who have the most.
In my entire lifetime, everything that I've spent will be quite a bit less than 1% of everything I make. The other 99% plus will go to others because it has no utility to me. So it's silly for me to not transfer that utility to people who can use it. It's doing me no good.
I am so proud of what we do. I almost cry at every board meeting because I just think she would be so proud. And that is my biggest job, in my opinion, is to make sure that every penny gets spent the way she would want it spent.
Whoever you are in this life, you don't want to think you wasted a lot of your energy and love and time on something useless. I always thought I'd marry a minister, or a doctor, or somebody out doing some valuable service to human beings. And the fact that I married somebody who makes just piles of money is really the antithesis of what I ever thought. But I know what he is, and he is, there's no finer human being than who he is.
The truth is that I'm here in my position as a matter of luck.
Hey, Grandpa.
When I was born in 1930, the odds were probably 40-1 against me being born in the United States. I did win the ovarian lottery on that first day, and on top of that, I was male. Put that down as another 50-50 shot, and now the odds are 80-1 against being born a male in the United States. And it was enormously important in my whole life. To think that that makes me superior to anyone else as a human being is just, I can't follow that line of reasoning.
Terrific. Okay, good luck.
I think I was lucky to have been standing alongside Warren Buffett while he was becoming Warren Buffett. He has developed over the years. He's broadened. His values extend through all of his life. He wants to lead a life that he and his father, if his father was still living, would say was a good one. I think he's going to end up in the history books 100 years from now. I'm not sure what role he's going to be assigned. Will he be famous for what he did as an investor or as a philanthropist? But Warren said that his ambition in life is to be a teacher.
The world is a great movie to watch, but you don't want to sleepwalk through life. The important thing to do is to look for the job you would take if you didn't need a job. And life is wonderful then. I mean, you know, you jump out of bed in the morning because you're really looking forward to the day. I have, for over 60 years, been able to tap dance to work just because I'm doing what I love doing. And I just feel very, very lucky. Okay, class dismissed. Hi.
Do you fear death?
No, I don't. I've had a terrific life. I feel, you know, it's going to happen. And I have no idea what happens after it. I'm an agnostic, so it may be terribly interesting. It may not be interesting at all. We'll find out. But
Physically, I'm pretty well depreciated. I'm getting down to salvage value. But it really doesn't make any difference at all. It doesn't interfere with my work. It doesn't interfere with my happiness. It doesn't interfere with my thinking. I don't feel any diminution in my enjoyment of life or enthusiasm for life at all. In fact, in a sense, the game that I'm in gets more interesting all the time. It's a competitive game. It's a big game. And I enjoyed the game a lot.